Welcome to a special edition of Rogue Logic. The murder of Tyre Nichols.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rogue Logic. I had several topics that I had planned on speaking about, and I'm not going to be talking about any of that this evening. Unfortunately, I am going to reserve this video just for the murder of Tyre Nichols. And if you have not heard, or you have not been able to see it on YouTube, or to see it on probably all of the news networks nationally as well as globally, likely, here we have another example of a life snuffed out for absolutely no reason whatsoever. This did not have to happen. And I am actually so upset that this is that I have to talk about this tonight. And there is no possible way that I could let this go without making some kind of statement about it, as it is such an unbelievable, horrific reality in our country here today. And it has been for many, many years. And this is by no means an isolated incident. And if you think it is, you're fooling yourselves. And I just have, I cannot imagine what Tyre Nichols' mother and family are feeling right at this moment. There are really no words, and there's nothing obviously that I can say or do to make that better in any way. And I certainly won't try to. But I do want to speak about this tonight, and I do think that there are solutions to this horrific problem of police brutality and what transpires in police departments nationwide, and specifically probably much more so in the South. I you know what, I don't know that for sure, so I'm going to move on, and I'm going to really get into the subject. And I just hope that everyone can find a way to, I don't even know. I'm going to leave it at that and continue on with the details of what has happened. And I will say this, though, as a footnote. I am not going to be posting any of the footage. I do hope that you take the opportunity, however disturbing it is, to watch the body cams and the various videos that were recorded in the area, and see the utter brutality and heinous actions of these 5 officers, as well as the inaction of the EMTs who arrived on the scene. And just take this in and realize what exactly is going on here, and what a horrific problem this is in our country. And this happens again and again and again. And the reason for that is because the police are allowed to police themselves. It doesn't take a genius to understand that this has been going on for as long as there have been police, and it will continue to go on until the following happens. And I don't think with the power of the police unions, I don't think this is ever going to happen. But it needs to. So here it is. Very simple and a very easy fix. Number one, there has to be an outside, independent organization that does the hiring, that does the firing of police. You also are going to need that same independent organization that needs to be created that will do psychological profiles on the people who are allowed to become police. And lastly, they are going to have the same organization make sure that every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, whatever it may be, that they are going to have to be given some type of psychological profile and make sure that they are not being desensitized to violence, can't be emotionally traumatized where they are going to be hurting people. And that psychological profile that I mentioned initially is going to weed out the type of people who are attracted to this type of job for all the wrong reasons. So let me start with another issue here, or another side of this that I'm not going to delve into very deeply, but you can obviously see the passion that I have about this topic. And I have a good reason to. Now, I'm sitting here because I got lucky. Hell, I might even be sitting here because I'm Caucasian. Maybe that's why I got lucky, but I really think that I think the problem's even deeper. But without going into detail, more than once, I have been at peril for my life due to police officers. And again, this is not the topic I want to talk about right now because I'm sitting here alive. And Tyre Nichols is dead. He's dead. And because he was stopped for a traffic violation. So, again, I'm going to leave my situations in the past alone, but when I think about them now, it infuriates me that these possibilities could have happened. Now, the next part of this that I need to talk about is the level of brutality, the level of complete, utter, no empathy and just lack of any kind of compassion for another human being that was displayed by these 4 idiots. And this is the problem. Okay? Now, you could see, aside from the heinous activity that took place, of this one guy, one man who could not be subdued in the correct manner by 5 police officers who are armed with tasers, pepper spray, handcuffs, firearms, all of the above. It's insanity. So, they're, first of all, couldn't even keep their breath running after them. So the level of whatever standards that there must be for them to have for physical ability, obviously there's a problem there. The inability to look objectively at what was going on, they got angry because pepper spraying this poor guy ended up, their ineptitude, they got pepper spray in their own eyes. Okay? So now, on top of everything else, they're angered. They're angered because of their actions. Now, this guy didn't need to be pepper sprayed. He was frightened out of his mind. And rightly so, obviously, because now he's dead. We'll make that very clear again. And you're talking about the type of behavior that is it's a sociopathic behavior. I mean, you cannot. I have been, and again, these are not things I'm going to discuss on here, at least not on this video. I've been in altercations due to past jobs and past situations. There is no way that 5 armed men would have any reason to do this to anybody. Or even, it's inconceivable that this could happen. And it's just, as you can see, I don't even know what else to say other than ineptitude, lack of empathy, total sociopathic behavior, and then afterwards to talk about him as he's sitting there against the police cruiser, dying in front of them. Yes, it took 3 days. He was in the hospital. It doesn't matter. This man is sitting there dying. The EMTs, which I can't even explain that part of the videos, unbelievable. I mean, these are people that are supposed to be there to administer some type of medical relief for anyone who needs it, whether they're a suspect or a detainee or a criminal or a mother or a child. And they're all standing there without a care in the world about what happened. And this is what I'm getting at. This is what shows you how the police and the police unions and the system works. This is what you get. Now, I hate to have to do this, but I know how much that I will have to say this or I'm going to get massacred by everyone out there. Well, the police have a hard job and the police do so much for everybody. And you don't understand what it's like. Well, no, I'm not a police officer, so I do not understand every aspect of what it's like. But I do understand this. No one is forcing you to be a police officer in this country. No one had to make you go and do that. So if you go into this and you don't understand that this is you're going to run into people who are afraid of you, and rightly so. You are going to run into criminals that you're going to have to deal with and be objective about it. Now, I do have some background in many things that have to do with dealing with people who are unruly in a bad situation. And boy, I've never had to do something like this to somebody who's on the ground. And it's insanity. This is insanity. And here's where the next problem is going to come in, and we see it and we know it is happening. And again, I'm not going to give any more time, and it's also because it's too late tonight. Maybe I'll follow this up with some of it. But our great friend Tucker Carlson has jumped on this opportunity to make a complete, utter play at the racial factor here. Let me make it absolutely clear to people, if you for 1 minute think that this is only happening because the police officers who did this were African American, and so was the man who was beaten to death, you are fooling yourself. You are completely living in a vacuum. This has been going on for years and years and years. And go back to what I said earlier in my video. It will continue to go on if people allow this to now be turned into, well, it was African Americans who did this to an African American, and this wouldn't have happened if it were police that were Caucasian. That is the most utter bit of nonsense. We all know it. The right-wing GOP MAGA people are going to jump all over this like the Caucasian police officers out there are just wonderful guys and women who would never think of doing something like this. Think again. Every single time that I have had my life in jeopardy because of police, they were all Caucasian. And I can tell you without a doubt that this happens to people all across this country, especially in the South. And of course, the people who suffer most from this are minorities. Young black men being killed by police. So again, I'm not sitting here saying anything about what's happened to me in the past. I am lucky, and I'm probably sitting here because I am Caucasian. That's probably the only reason I'm alive. So anyone trying to use this for political means, which is what they jump to immediately, they are the biggest liars and opportunists. Tucker Carlson is a low-life, lying, I mean, it's insanity, the level of what he's allowed to get away with. And let's not forget that the network that he's on, Fox News, is not even allowed to be called news. You can look this up if you think that I'm making this up. This has to be called a entertainment channel. And why? Because there is no journalism. Now, I'm not sticking up for CNN. I'm not sticking up for them at all. I don't watch any of these things regularly because I take my news from objective sources. CNN and Fox are both corporate-run media. So these people basically have become talking heads for whatever side of whatever corporation that they're being run by. So again, I don't want to have to hear how, oh, you're sticking up for the liberal CNN media. Hell, I don't even call CNN liberal anymore in any variety. Sure, it's an improvement over Fox, but either one of them, if that's where you're getting your news, you are being totally having the wool pulled over your eyes. It's complete nonsense. This is not anything that is at all anywhere near reality. So I'm going to say this again because the other end of the spectrum is conspiracy theory idiots who are going on and think research is typing something into the internet and reading whatever without even understanding the sources. Long before the internet, when you did research, you went to a library. You went and looked up experts on a subject. You may have interviewed people who were actual experts in the field. There's just a number of things. Peer-reviewed scientific facts. Studies that have been backed up and rechecked and overchecked. This is what research is. So you go onto the internet and do your research, or you go to YouTube and you get some of the really good commentary from channels that are not owned by corporate media. So what do I recommend? I can tell you right now. Now, of course, people are going to jump right on this and say, oh, well, of course, you're recommending progressives. Well, yeah, I am. And you know why I am? Because they're the only ones telling the truth. So I highly suggest that you watch the David Pacman show, and you can watch him, and I promise you that if he finds anything wrong, or anything criminal done by Democrats, independents, or Republicans, he will be calling it out. Now, anyone on the far, far right isn't going to believe this, but it's true, and you can just watch his show and you can see it. Another great place to watch your news is by the Young Turks. And again, they will call out any kind of hypocrisy, any kind of criminal behavior by Democrats, independents, Republicans, or anyone else. But you know why? You know why that both of those channels that I think are excellent sources of news, because they're independent and they're not run by any corporation? Do you know why they find so much more fault with MAGA and with the far right? Because they're the ones perpetrating all of this. I mean, the nonsense that's going to come out of this about Antifa being the ones who are behind this, it blows my fucking mind, because these people don't even understand what Antifa is. It is not organized. Anti-fascism is it is nothing the same thing as these far-right lunatics who tried to overthrow our constitutional republic. Now, I'm getting off subject here, because here's what we should be talking about. Can you imagine Tyre Nichols' mother right now? How does she feel right now? I can't even fathom what she and the rest of their family are feeling. So let's make sure that we hear the names of these 5 murderers. Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, Emmett Martin III, Desmond Mills Jr., and Justin Smith. They have been fired. They have been charged with second-degree murder, 2 counts of official misconduct, 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping, 1 count of official oppression, and 1 count of aggravated assault. And let us see what happens when this goes to trial. The last thing that I would like to finish on right here is, again, I hope that people can be objective. I know most of them won't be. Maybe not most, but I know a great number of them won't be. One more time, if you think this is because these 5 officers were black, African-American men, and that's why this happened, you are living in fantasy land. This has been happening and continues to happen, and the only reason that these 5 officers have gotten prosecuted, have gotten fired at this incredibly fast rate, is because they were African American. If these 5 officers were white, Caucasian, you know damn well this would have gone down completely different. There is no way this would have happened like this. Now, what could come out of this? I'm dreaming. I know I'm dreaming here. What I think would be great that would come out of this is if this were handled as strictly police brutality, blind to whether these officers were African American, Caucasian, Asian. It doesn't matter. It's police brutality. It's been going on forever. It will continue to go on unless what is done about it is exactly what I said. People so often complain about this, but they don't have an answer. Well, do you want an answer? I'm going to give you the answer one more time. independent organization that polices the police. You cannot have internal affairs. I'm sure there's some hard-ass internal affairs officers who, for one reason or another, maybe they do their jobs and actually do something about a very small portion of the police in our country who are out of control, and maybe occasionally one or two of them get taken out and fired because of their misconduct is just so heinous that maybe it happens occasionally. It doesn't happen enough, and we all know it. And I'm not going to go into it, but I can't tell you the amount of times that I have witnessed and been involved with and seen police just like this who have, to various levels, bent the rules for their own families, bent the rules for their friends, have gotten away with all kinds of unbelievable things because who polices them? Themselves. It's just like if I were given the opportunity to be a sheriff in a town, in my town. Let's say I was sheriff in my town. Well, then all of a sudden, without naming any names, my best friends get in trouble for, I don't know, DUI or maybe an altercation of some sort. Do you really think that if I'm the sheriff of the town, do you really think that I'm not going to take the side of my good friends? Now, what does that say? That says that I shouldn't be a police officer. And that's why I'm not a police officer. And I am going to make a video that's going to be coming out. And this one this one exemplifies why it is so dangerous, why there is a young man who is dead over a traffic stop because of, all right, I'm gonna mind what I'm saying because I am emotionally invested here because I'm so tired of people being murdered and people getting away with it because they have a badge and a gun. So I'm gonna leave what I was about to say alone, but let's just say I have a very personal connection to understanding the psyche of a police officer who absolutely should never, by any means, been allowed to be a police officer. And I will leave it at that. So, how will I close this video? Like I always do, but prior to that, I would like to... There's nothing you can say to Tyre Nichols' mother and family. There's nothing we can say. In fact, I would feel like I want to say something to them, how utterly horrified I am that this has happened, how sorry I am, but it doesn't mean anything. There's nothing you can say at all. There's nothing you could say to help this or to fix this. Change has to happen. Police need to be policed by an outside organization. And here's the other one. All right? Let's get rid of this blue line that has been spoken about over and over and over again. All of you cops out there who don't want us feeling this way, get some goddamn balls. And when you have other police officers who are doing this, who have murdered people, who are committing crimes, who are stealing drugs and money, Why don't you be the good cop that you claim? You always claim it's a few bad apples. Well, I don't believe it. And almost nobody believes it because we all know people. I mean, it's fucking insane. I'm going to have to leave it at that. So I will say, in earnest, please be kind to one another whenever you can, which is almost all the time. And that includes yourself and people around you. Treat people how you'd want to be treated. God, it's so easy. And only because I always say it, and I can't help it, be kind to animals whenever you can, all the time. They don't do this. They don't do this. Humans do this. Humanity? What a joke. What a joke. I hope everyone has a peaceful evening. And I just, this is so utterly, this is heartbreaking to see. I hope there's something good can kind of come out of something so utterly evil and heinous. Peace, everybody. Well, I've gotten into the habit of having the end credits video here, which some people may see, some people may not. I don't know. And I usually like to make some small, amusing, and maybe just something funny that Basil the cat or Leopold, my other cat, is doing. But I don't have that for you today. If you made it this far into the video, all I have to say is I hope that, again, I'll repeat it, I hope something good comes of this, and I'll just leave a small in memory of, and I just hope that this can somehow stop. That's it.
In memory of Tyre Nichols. Born June 5, 1993, murdered January 10, 2023.